Of Block 1. Painful reminders of lost homes. It's believed that there are 36 people trapped inside the ruins, but there is still uncertainty about these numbers. By days 2 and 3, international rescue teams are responding to Malaysia's call for help.
We have no experience for a disaster of this magnitude,
Experts fly in from Singapore, France and Japan. These highly experienced teams bring to the disaster site a battery of high-tech search and rescue equipment. The reinforced teams focus their attention on the service area stairwell that once linked the 2 towers of Block 1. This is where residents trying to escape should have fled.
People would have, as soon as the building started to move and shudder, would have tried to escape. And obviously their form of escape would be the stairs. They would be somewhere on that staircase.
Rescuers will tunnel towards the service block area from opposite sides. The international teams use search cameras, an extension of the human eye, to peer into voids inside the collapsed structure. The French deploy their tracker dogs, able to detect any human trace. It's hoped that these new strategies will speed up the rescue of any survivors.
Time is always the factor that all rescuers must take into consideration. You fight against time.
We recognize that a human being can only survive for so long. Dehydration is the worst thing to fear. Of course, time is critical.
As the rescuers redouble their efforts, the nagging anxiety that the other 2 blocks might suddenly fail deepens. Engineers have set up monitoring equipment to check for any sign of movement. On day 3, an alarm is raised from Block 2, sending everyone scurrying for shelter.
It's collapsing, and everybody just ran.
Can you imagine the rescuers all have to evacuate and quickly make their exit?
But Block 2 remains resolutely vertical, and So Chai Hock confronts the man who sounded the alarm.
Oh, why have you hit the alarm? And he pointed out to the building. And actually the clouds were moving. And he thought that the building was coming down. It was an optic illusion. It could be stress. So immediately I have him replaced. And I said, look, you can't have such thing going on.
On the rescue site, work resumes. The French team use sensitive listening devices to try and find sounds of life deep inside the collapsed tower.
Listening for very specific sound patterns. And the way they do it is by inducing a series of knocks which have a normal response. Now, if I gave the normal reaction would be, and that's the sort of pattern that they would use.
On the evening of the 3rd day at 7:30, there's a sudden buzz of excitement. A member of the French team hears an answering pattern of knocks.
The whole operation ceased to allow time to hear it clearly.
The knocking sound is faint and intermittent, but Mike Ricard has never doubted what he heard.
It was a very distinct reply, and I listened to it, and that reply was repeated and repeated. It sort of made the hairs at the back of my neck stand up. I mean, I could hear somebody somewhere in the vicinity was replying to this induced knock.
The sound galvanizes the rescuers and raises hope among the waiting relatives.
They heard knockings and I sort of believed that. Because it is possible for somebody to actually be knocking and respond to what the people are doing on top. That gave me hope.
Now, all of Malaysia prays that the rescuers have at last found another survivor of Highland Towers. 5 days after the catastrophic collapse of Highland Towers Block 1, the rescue operation continues day and night. So far, just 3 of the residents who were inside at the time the tower collapsed have been found alive. One of them, Shizui Nakajima, has died from her injuries in hospital. But now, the French rescue team has detected the sound of knocking from somewhere deep inside the rubble and have been using the knocks for over a day to try to locate 1 or more survivors. The rescuers know that this fragile sound is the last chance to find anyone alive.
It came from within the structure, that's all I could say. Where within the structure, don't know, because the way that sound travels through concrete is weird and wonderful. You can't say it's over there and how far over there. You just don't know.
We do not give up so easily. We will continue. Even we can save 1 more life. It worth the effort of all of us there. That was the bottom line which we told our people. Even 1 more life, I say.
For 2 more days, the rescuers listen to the fading knocks, frantically trying to locate the source of the sound. But at the beginning of day 7, there is a heart-stopping silence. The knocking stops and is never heard again. That silence is the end of hope.
Hope is the last thing you lose, but you know, it is very, very painful when you have to face that.
My hope died at day 7.
As that last knock faded, the wreckage of Highland Towers Block 1 becomes, instead of a trap, a tomb. Reluctantly, a decision is made to end rescue efforts and begin a search for the dead.
The only way we knew we were going to quickly access any bodies was to go in with heavy machinery.
As the machines begin smashing up the rubble, the emotional impact on the waiting relatives, who now realize that no one can still be alive, is shattering.
Big equipment come in and started to take stuff away. And that, emotionally to the families, that was devastating.
Obviously we can't and don't want to leave anybody unaccounted for.
In this last phase of the operation, the search teams believe that there might be more than 50 victims inside the remains of Highland Towers. A terrible odor begins to permeate the site, the unmistakable smell of death.
You know, and with that smell, that death is there. And to the families, is it my son, is it my daughter, is it my mother or father?
Nisa Barno prepares for the worst. Her sister, baby nephew and brother-in-law were all in Block 1.
We were just waiting to hopefully get her body out and give her a proper burial, all of them, and all 3 of them. It reached a stage where we were waiting just for that. We managed to accept she may not be alive.
We started basically at the base of the building, what we call level 1, because that was the way it was leaning. We would just progressively work floor by floor, demolishing, removing, demolishing, removing. And that's why, when it didn't take us long at that stage, before we came across the first of the bodies at ground floor.
It was just after sundown on day 8.
As soon as we came across anything recognizable as a body, we would then stop, go back to basically utilizing hand tools and removing physically by hand the rubble around the bodies to allow us access to bring them out as intact as possible.
I remember watching the bodies being brought out by the workers, and they were all in various states of decomposition. I remember seeing a lady clutching the Holy Quran. I remember seeing a woman clutching a child with both arms.
It's natural to protect your loved ones, and that last minute of
The remains of Dr. Rizwan's sister Rosina and her husband Carlos are found the next day.
They found them in the staircase, somewhere between the third and second floor, together, in an embrace.
All the remains are taken to the Kuala Lumpur mortuary. By the end of the recovery operation, the disaster team has found the remains of 47 residents of Highland Towers, bringing the final death toll to 48, including the Japanese woman Shizue Nakajima, who died in hospital. These numbers have fluctuated throughout the 12 days of the rescue, but 48 is now regarded as the official tally of victims. The families who have suffered such a devastating and unexpected loss now face